Now, when it comes to Rainbow Quartz, I might be wrong, or some of my things might not be entirely correct because, well, one, we haven't actually seen Rainbow Quartz in battle, so a lot of the things I'm going to be judging her on is a little bit different compared to all the other fusions we've seen, because most of the time when they appeared, they were used for action and actually fighting, pretty much. It was like the first time that we saw Opal. She was fighting a giant bird. So this is just going to be a little bit different, so bear with me on this one. If you're new to the fusion, how strong is, or at least that subcategory, what I do for this one is I take the two people or gems that fuse into the fusion, so this time being Pearl and Rose for Rainbow Quartz, not the Steven and Pearl, but the Rainbow Quartz that we've actually seen from We Need to Talk. I take those two and then I tell you about their abilities and other things that they use in a fight or combat, and then eventually I'll talk about the actual fusion and then the new unique abilities that that fusion has, and then by the end of the video I will tell you, in my personal opinion, how strong I think that fusion is. But with the introduction aside, let's start with Rose's abilities. Oh boy, for Rose, she's got quite a list of powers and abilities, so get comfortable with this one, or get a snack or something to drink, or just, listen to me talk. But anyway, the very first thing that Rose, of course, has, and what she was pretty much known for, or at least by most people, is her summoning shield. The little pink shield, which can be increased by size, as shown by Steven. If Steven can do it, Rose can also master it. Well, which brings me to the point. Pretty much all of Rose's abilities, compared to Steven, are, of course, mastered. So, compared to Steven, they're going to be a bit stronger, a lot faster to use, and if I'm right, would have more creative abilities to them that we haven't seen at least Steven use or Rose use, because we still haven't actually seen her in a true fight. The only fight that we've seen her was with the Rubies, and I guess like her first attack against Homeworld with Pearl. But besides that, yeah, Rose has the shield, and then the other thing that she has when it comes to defensive is her pink bubble, the little bubble that she can summon. It can also be increased in size, just like the shield, and with two new features that we found out within some of the other episodes with the Summer Steven. First one is that it can create spikes. I'm guessing it would need to be big enough. I'm not too sure about that. I'm pretty sure it doesn't actually matter on the size, so it can create spikes if anyone gets too close, or, if Rose has, like, I don't know, personal space issues or something like that. Or, just use kind of like as a battering ram. I'm not too sure. But anyway, the other thing, which I think they will go in more depth in, because I'm guessing Steven did it by accident like he usually does with his powers, is I'm just going to call it a traction beam within the bubble, because he pulled Ruby, in space away from the other asteroid and put him back into the bubble. Sorry, pulled her back into the bubble and then saved her life. So it has traction beam abilities. I'm guessing, if her sword's like out of her reach or something, instead of using the force, I guess she could just use the bubble and then just use the bubble's traction and then get the sword right back into her hand. Next is Rose's healing tears. She would need to cry a lot because she was known for healing a lot of crystal gems when it came to the war. But then again, she wouldn't need all that many tears. That's what the fountain is for. And you pretty much know how the healing goes. One tear could at least fix or heal a cracked gem. That's how powerful it is. But transitioning from the fountain, you know those plants that were like attacking Steven and Amethyst? That goes into another one of Rose's abilities, kind of like what Steven did in the Watermelon Steven. Rose has power to create plant guardians. I guess that's how I would call them. I'm honestly not too sure how that works. I think she would just also need to kiss them, or it's something like that. But you pretty much know how it goes. You guys know it better than what I do. She has little plant guardians. Now, she's not going to, like, specifically make, like, watermelon roses, I guess, but she can have, like, plants, bushes, maybe even trees, and probably just even, like, grass itself attack and defend for her. Next, the ability that Rose has would be her floating powers, as it's pretty much dubbed as within the show. Rose can jump in the air as high as she can. I'm not specifically how sure, but she can fly in the air, not fly, but jump really high in the air and then control her descent. How fast, how slow, and where she even drops. She has control of all of that. It's pretty much like gliding if you've pretty much ever played a video game, like a platformer, things like that. So that's pretty much how the floating powers work, and since she's a master, she'll be jumping and floating around and gliding everywhere. You wouldn't be able to touch her if you're on the ground. Another thing is, well, I wouldn't even classify it as like an exclusive power for Rose, but it's just something to note. Rose does have enhanced strength. You know, it's nothing incredible like Sugalite, but she is pretty strong. I'm guessing just with like her bare hands and no weapon, she took down a 3-fusion ruby within like a blink of an eye with no problem, and she poofed 2 of them, and one of those rubies happens to now be our garnet. So that just shows how strong Rose is. She like stopped the Ferris wheel with no problem, and then just broke the cart off of it with also no problem. You know, I wouldn't be surprised if she would be the type of character that just doesn't know her own strength, because that's what it just always seems like to me. And it would be for like comedic purposes. That would be funny as well. Another thing that isn't specifically like an ability, but Rose, I would say, is like a master tactician, or just like as smart as a general, because she commanded and was the leader of the entire Gem Rebellion. She started it, and she led pretty much all of it against all of Homeworld, if not a big percentage of it, and they won, in a way, against Homeworld, and then they kept Earth. They won against all that, and that war ended up for 1,000 years. They fought for 1,000 years, and Rose, with like her little special army of gems and stuff against pretty much all of Homeworld, she won. She led them to victory and all of that. So Rose is, you know, not crazy or dumb when it comes to like Earth things, because she just doesn't know any better. She is actually pretty dang smart. And then the last thing I guess I should also say is that Rose does also have her sword. She has her sword whenever. It's one of the strongest gem weapons that there is, you know, not counting like, I guess like a gem destabilizer, the breaking point, and even a light cannon. But it's a weapon that can be on the go whenever, and that was available at the time. It was a 1-2 hit. That was it. That gem was poofed at least, no matter how big they are, maybe. But yeah, Rose does have one of the stronger weapons in gem history, and that being her sword. And that's finally it for Rose. Now let's just move on to Pearl, which she doesn't have that many things compared to Rose. Now finally on to Pearl, and as said again, she doesn't have that many abilities or unique powers compared to Rose. Pearl does, well, I'm not too sure because they haven't really revealed it, but it's safe to bet that she did have her summoning spear at the time. If not, she was really good with swords, so swords, spear, doesn't matter. Pearl will find a way to cut you down if not. But if she did have her spear, which is still a high chance, which is pretty much a yes, she would have the little energy blasts that come from the spear. I think they were called like fireballs. I think that's what they're nicknamed. Or just energy blasts. You know, those things, what's on screen right now. She could fire those. And then, I mean, that's pretty much it from the time of Pearl. There's not too much I can also go off of. I could also say she's pretty experienced when she comes to fighting, because she was alongside Rose the same time the rebellion starts. So she would have an idea when it comes to fighting and things like that. She's been fighting enemies that are twice as fast, twice as big, probably even twice as smarter than her. Anything, you name it, Pearl has fought it and has most likely beat it. Took her a couple of tries because she kept poofing, but still, she knows how to fight. She has the experience. Rainbow Quartz, finally here. Now, Rainbow, she pretty much has all of those abilities that I just explained. She has the sword, Rose's sword. She has the spears from Pearl, the bubble, the shield, the floating powers, the healing powers to others, the plants, anything else that I can't think of at the moment. She has it all. She has every bit of it, and it's if I'm right with the fusion, it's enhanced by a bit. So with Rose mastered abilities and then Rainbow Quartz added with like the double strength, that's almost unstoppable compared to the other fusions that we've seen so far. But now the important question is that we haven't actually seen what is Rainbow's weapon. Now the best thing that I can conclude, and I'm pretty sure everyone else has concluded to this, it would be, well, the funny one would be an umbrella, but then, of course, the actual one, at least for combat, would be an axe. You know, the spear, then the shield would be shaped in a different way. Attach it, it would be an axe. Now, one thing that I also wanted to note is that, you know how, like, some weapons have, like, a double feature? Like, with Pearl, she could shoot the little fireballs from her spear, Amethyst Whips can set on fire, and even Sardonic's hammer could be a drill. This one, the best one I can conclude is that Rainbow's axe could be a chainsaw. You guys seen the show or remember the show Generator X? You know, the guy who could like create these machines, weapons, and gadgets from his body parts and such. And one of the ones that he used was a sword. His arm was a sword. And then a feature to that sword was that it could spin around really fast and be a saw. I think it was called like the blade saw or something like that. It's pretty much the same thing here, but it's not a sword. It's in this case an axe. And since it's an axe, it makes a lot more sense since it's round and all that. So just imagine it, you know, Rainbow Quartz with an axe, then it becomes like a saw in one hand, and then Rose's sword in the other hand. Who or what could stop that? That looks unstoppable to me. Now for the final thing to talk about, the verdict. I suppose I should call it the conclusion. How strong is Rainbow Quartz? Now, right off the bat, we know that she's at least stronger than Opal. Can we all agree on that? You know, it's simple. Rose, Pearl, they have a pretty strong connection. It's safe to say that she's stronger than Opal. Now, here's where a bit of confusing and then interesting part comes in. I say that she's stronger than Sugilite. Now, hear me out on this one. We all know that she's not physically stronger than her, but she's smarter than her. And what ended up being Sugilite's downfall? Pearl being smart against her. We all know that Sugilite isn't the one to have like a plan, or she's known for her brains rather than her brawn. No, she's really known for her brawn. That's why she lost. She doesn't really focus on like smart brains, plans, or anything like that. She doesn't do all of that, and that's what ended up being her downfall. And with Rainbow Quartz being experienced, having Rose's mind of being like a general and a master tactician, and not only that, you know, fighting Sugilite is just like every day to them during the war, because they fought Quartz nearly the same size as them. It would just be another Tuesday to them. That's all it would be. And then a bit of the tricky part comes in. Do I say that she's stronger than Sardonyx at least? I say that she would be at least an equal, if not pretty stronger than her, but not too strong. So she would be the strongest I say Rainbow Quartz would be, or could get, would be in between Sardonyx and then Malachite or Alexandrite, however you see on that part. That's how I see it would be. But if not, I want to say that Rainbow Quartz is just as strong, sorry, as Sardonyx, if not just a little bit stronger than her. Nothing too fancy, because Sardonyx is, you know, pretty much with Pearl and Garden. Their bond is not like the best, but Sardonyx does have like a couple of tricks up her sleeve. But I could be wrong. You know, Rainbow Quartz could overwhelm Sardonyx if that ever happened. But, yep, that's everything I need to talk about in this one. It's kind of a long one. Sorry about that one, but, you know, I gotta do what I gotta do. So let me know what you think in the comments below. Have any questions, comments, or concerns? Want to draw any fan art for the channel would be greatly appreciated. The email for the fan art is in the description. Tell me about it before you send me or ask me about it, so I have a heads up. Discussion topics, also leave in the comments below. I'll have a little comment that says reply here for discussion ideas. Everything else, you know what to do. Bye.